Welcome to the Warband, a World of Warcraft podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Swaglock, and with me today is my poultry friend and your co-host, Chicken.
Did you? That was pretty offensive, actually. No, that was right on par. That was my name, Chicken.
Thank you.
I
almost couldn't find a way to intro you that wasn't just the generic, like, and this is my co-host, Chicken.
Let me tell you, I've known Swag for a long time now, and if there's one thing that he's good at, it is intros. You're actually really good at intros.
Thanks, man,
really
dude. Thank you.
Segueing intros, just coming up with stuff on the fly. Like, I don't think I would ever came up with anything like that.
Dude, but you see me at my actual job where I'm just winging it. So,
yeah, but even when you wing it, dude, when you wing it, you're just on.
Yeah, you know who actually has wings though? Chickens. So Chicken,
okay,
what have you, dude? What have you been up to this week though? And WoW and whatever else is going on in life.
Well, they said I couldn't do it. They said it wasn't possible, but it is. I finally got my broad sack, baby. Woohoo!
Oh my gosh, I'm seeing everybody in the guild right now hyped over that, and I probably need to run that dungeon a bit more. I don't know. I haven't done as much as I should. I don't even know the sack. I mean, it looks good. Stop. I love haste for tanks. So on my DK, right? On my monk, I probably could care less. But so I should really go after it.
It is the best trinket for, I'm pretty sure, every class. I'd say 90% of the DPS, it is the best trinket. 100%.
I just hate spamming one dungeon on repeat just to get an item.
know.
And especially when I'm watching everybody going run spamming on twos, and I'm like, okay, but I don't know. I just in my mind, I'm like, there's no way that's so good that coming from a 2, it's better than trinkets out of 7s or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or delve trinkets or raid trinkets or whatever. I'm definitely probably wrong about that. I'm probably just dumb. That's just my observation. But that sounds like fun, man.
It's a good trinket. I mean, easily probably one of the best trinkets in the game, dude. I was running it earlier, and I'm pretty sure it granted me an extra 8,000 strength at one point on top of the extra 1,500 haste it gives you, dude. It's nuts. I guarantee you it's gonna get nerfed 100%.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to go farm it. But they might leave it. They might leave it for this whole season,
that's
and
true.
then we'll see.
Yeah.
If it gets nerfed, my guess would be that it'll get nerfed. If they're doing the same thing as they did last expansion, right? We'll have this dungeon season 1, and then it might make a return back in season 4. And if that's the case, then I could totally see that happening. Although here's my speculation. My speculation is this, and I wasn't planning to talk about this on the podcast, but I've been thinking about it lately. I don't know if Dragonflight was a win, having season 4 be all the original Dragonflight dungeons returning. Because by that point, everybody was ready to kind of take a break. People were kind of backing out. And a lot of players, I think, felt like they missed on those dungeons. I think what we're going to see is a 4-4 AB rotation, AB. And so we're going to see the 4 that we have right now in rotation. Then we're going to see the next 4 next season. And I think season 3, then we'll see the 4 from this season come back in season 3. And then the 4 from the other season come back in season 4. And that way, it balances out more rather than just having no War Within dungeons at all in season 3, and then all War Within in season 4.
That actually makes sense. Yeah,
that's my theory.
Do we know if they're giving us another mega dungeon? I feel like they would, right?
Oh, absolutely. They're definitely. I don't know what the mega dungeon's going to be. If I could pick, if I could choose. I think the Mega Dungeon might be related to the Horonir. Do you remember the Horonir from the raiding or the leveling experience? I know leveling isn't always your jam.
I do not.
Okay, so do you remember those and a lot of their story is more so done in the side quests and not the main storyline. But when you get down into Ashkahet, the spidery area, you start encountering these troll elf kind of hybrid beings. They seem to be pretty big into druidism.
Okay.
I suspect the Mega Dungeon might be related to them, but I'm not 100% sure. That's the only thing, because usually the Mega Dungeon is a part of the story that's kind of being explored, but hasn't totally been explored. Again, we kind of saw that the Mega Dungeon was going to be a thing because the Bronze Dragonflight area was really set up with those big doors that it looked like we were going to go in there at some point. I was hoping for a raid, but the Mega Dungeon was cool.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, no, that's true. Yeah, I didn't think about that from Dragonflight, to be honest.
But really, I want those Hornier to be playable races. I think they're cool. I think it's kind of a cool halfway point between Troll and Elf. I don't know, a little bit of lore here. Again, if I'm saying things you already know, feel free to stop me. But it is believed in lore. There's some debate on it, right? The elves would say it's not true, but we as the players, I'm pretty sure we know definitively for a fact that the elves actually come from trolls. And so you had what were called the dark trolls, and they lived near the Well of Eternity. They generally preferred being out at night, which is kind of how the night elves are as well. But they lived by this lake that they called the Well of Eternity. And it was really just the blood of Azeroth, like the actual being, the Titan, we think, whatever the being is inside of Azeroth, where we're getting the song right now, right? The whole reason why we're even here in the first place is because everybody was getting visions. The Radiant song, that's Azeroth. That's why we're here, but that's also what was causing the Well of Eternity. I could go into details of how the Well of Eternity came to be, but just think of it as a big wound on the planet that the Titans tried to heal by just having it funnel its magic back into itself. Yeah. And so the Dark Trolls, they lived along that well. And by living along that well, which is this huge fount of arcane power, they kind of became transformed into the Night Elves that we know now. Yeah. And so I wonder if these Hornier are actually like biologically that halfway point between the Dark Troll and the Night Elf. Maybe they're just Dark Trolls in their entirety, really. Maybe that's just what Dark Trolls are. But we also, I think we saw a Dark Troll back in BFA. I think there was one last living Dark Troll or something. So I think we know definitively what the Dark Trolls look like. They just look like normal trolls. So really the question is then, are the Hornier that halfway point? And really, what matters the most, will they be playable? And I really hope they are.
That's enough lore for this podcast, man. Too much lore. I'm overloaded.
Lore overloaded. But no, so anyways, when we talk about the Hornier, that's my theory on where like a Mega Dungeon could be. Because I think there's a lot of story to tell. And Mega Dungeons tend to be really good at giving a story that builds something out, right? So you look at Mechagon. Mechagon was a great way to kind of build out the Mecha Gnomes even more. True. Let us see into Mechagon. I can't remember. Dawn of the Infinite. That's the name of the dungeon. It kind of helped to see a little bit more into the powers of the Bronze Dragonflight, but it was really just a fun, timey-wimey kind of dungeon.
Yeah, let's explore some things. Yeah.
But Tazavesh. Tazavesh was a great way for us to see into the brokers, how the brokers interacted with each other. And you're like, what are the brokers, Swag? The brokers are those guys, Chicken, you know that helmet that you wear all the time with like the little flame head? That's the brokers, those little flame head people with the mask things from Shadowlands.
That helmet, dude.
Basically ethereals, but not ethereals.
What is the quote from that dungeon? It's like something about don't mess with Tazavesh Stranger or something. Oh, what is it? Oh,
I actually do not remember it at all.
Oh my goodness. It's like, I feel like I used to love that quote. Like every time you'd enter upper of Tazavesh, they would always say that. And I'm like, oh, that's such a
that was quote. Streets, right? Tazavesh Streets, I think, was that half.
Yeah. Oh, Streets. Streets was a garbage dungeon.
Okay, so I like Streets. I think Streets was long, but I liked it. But I will say though, what was it? Gambit? Was that the other one? Gambit was like goated.
Dude, that was such a good and missed opportunity, man, that we didn't get that dragon as a mount. Like such a missed opportunity.
Blizzard has gone on record to say the reason we don't have that mount is because the story with that dragon isn't done yet.
Ooh, spoilers.
Yep. So if you're like, oh, I want that dragon, that's why. Okay, hot take. Before we get into some of the actual stuff, and I haven't even shared what I've been up to, but we'll probably talk about that with maybe rating and whatnot. But hot take here, dude. Hot take. Shadowlands dungeons were kind of awesome. Like looking back
Yeah, they
now,
were.
at Shadowland dungeons, the dungeons we have right now, the two that we have returning, Necrotic Wake and Mist of Tyrannus Scythe, both of them are great. I think Necrotic Wake's a little overtuned in a couple spots, but
Oh yeah,
we'll discuss that.
100%.
We'll discuss that later. But I just think like those dungeons were so good, especially compared to like Dragonflight dungeons, even Legion dungeons. I just think it was Shadowlands. Even though there's other areas I really disliked in Shadowlands, I think their dungeons were top tier.
Yeah, and they just suffered from the rotation of just
Mhm.
like having the same dungeons every season. Like that, I can't imagine. Like that must have
Mhm.
been awful.
Because it
Like I
wasn't until season
literally
4 they made that
can't
change.
imagine.
Yeah.
What was that?
It wasn't until season 4 that they made the change of having new dungeons in rotation. Right? So the
Yeah, they
first
had
3
the
seasons, I think you had
yeah.
all 8 season 1, all 8 season 2.
Oh my goodness.
Season 3
Yeah.
was the original 8 plus then you had
Plus
the two
Tajavesh, yeah.
Tazavesh part 1, part 2, so you had 10, right? And then after
Yeah.
that they redid it with some of the old mega dungeons and some other stuff. But
Yeah.
we'll move on. We don't have to talk about Shadowlands. This ain't the Shadowlands glazing contest here. I just like their
Shadowlands
dungeons.
podcast.
Nah, this is the Warband. We're here to talk about what's going on in World of Warcraft right
Yeah, what have
now.
you been up to?
Yeah, man. So it's kind of been a bit of a busy week for me. I've still been raid leading. So the original plan was I was going to raid lead for 2 weeks while our raid leader was kind of away on the trip and just taking care of some life stuff that was going on. And in that process, in that process, I think he just realized that he just wants a little bit more of a break. And that he wants some more time to rest, relax. Still actively part of the guild. I believe he's popping in on our more casual raid nights and hanging out as well there.
Mm-hmm.
So like everything's good. But I'm just now kind of in the seat of like, okay, I guess I'm raid leading for probably the rest of the season. We'll see what happens. And now I'm like trying to make decisions like, okay, how do we be successful? Our original plan was to step into Mythic Plus or Mythic Raid. And you know, as well as I do, we've only ever done Mythic Raid one time. We got a few bosses down, and that was great. But then that was like the end of the season for us. It was literally like one night or 2 nights of raiding, and then we were done. I'm excited, but I'm also nervous right now that I have to carry the baton. So this week has been really fun raid leading with them. We got the first few bosses down, first 4 bosses down. We've been stuck on Brood. We were stuck for a long time on Bloodbound Horror in heroic mode. Like, I think we spent maybe 3 days on that boss total. And so I was scared. I was scared on Wednesday this week that we were going to have, like, we were just going to be stuck on this boss again. And for whatever reason, maybe not be able to get that kill, right? Like, maybe we were just lucky the first time we got the kill or something. And man, I was so hyped when we one shot that boss.
That was really good. That was clutch.
So we cleared up and then spent, I think, all of Thursday, a little bit of Wednesday, all of Thursday working on Bloodbound Horror. No, not Bloodbound Horror. Brood. And,
Brood. Yeah,
Ovanax or something like that. Yeah, that's a fight, dude. That is an absolute fight. So we didn't get him down. What did we get him to? I think 21% was our best push.
Yeah.
It felt great. So now it's like, okay, how do we make those progressive steps to continue improving the team? I put out another eye level push for next week. I think it's a 9 eye level push over what it was last week. However, most of our players are either there or within like 3 eye levels of being there. So it's not really that big of an ask. I'm also asking for them to have like their at least their level 8 delve slots filled, right, with 616 gear. That should make a huge difference. But I think this is the last week. I've just been talking with the team, with our officer team. I think this might be the last week that we look at eye level upgrades. And sadly, I think soon, and I really want to avoid doing this. I'm actually kind of like nervous about it. It's something that scares me. But starting to look at like just like performance at raid and starting to make the invites based upon how people are performing, which sucks, dude.
It's hard.
Yeah,
it's hard.
I think
you can verbally tell me on the podcast that I'm not good enough to play on the raid team.
Perfect. That makes it. That actually makes it easy. That actually makes it. Wow, that makes it really easy. Thank you. I can. Yeah. So next week, I'm just messing with you. I think what's tough though is it's not, and I think this is where, and I'm being open and candid. So like if you're listening to this and you're a part of a raid team, or heck, if you're a part of our guild's raid team and you're listening to this right now, I'm definitely being very open. I'm definitely being very candid about all of this. And, what's interesting is it's definitely a personal thing, right? Because the moment you tell somebody like, hey, you're just not performing up to the standard we need for this, It kind
Oh
of comes
yeah.
across, almost feels insulting. It's like
Oh
you've
yeah,
been trying so
100%.
hard. But the reality is the boss health, right, goes up for everybody we add.
Yeah.
Right, and the healing needed goes up for everybody we add, because these scale. It's not like the boss has one set amount of health and adding
Yeah,
more
right.
people will always make it better. It makes it harder. More mechanics go out, right? So there's more
Yep.
mechanics to deal with on mini fights because of
Yeah,
multiple
it's
players.
hard, dude.
And so you hit this point where you're going, okay, if this person's present, it's actually making this fight harder for the group, right? Where
Yep,
in
exactly.
reality, everybody should be making the fight easier. That's
Yep.
theoretically, like theoretically, even if that person's only doing 2% more damage, right? Like just 2% more damage than the health added to the boss, that's fine with me.
Hmm.
I'll take it. Right?
Yeah.
If it's a net zero, awesome, cool. I'm happy.
That's zero, baby.
The trouble starts coming though when, right, let's say it adds, and I'm just making up numbers right now. Let's say it adds 1,000,000 more health to the boss by having somebody
Hmm.
present, and that person's only doing 500,000 damage, right?
Yeah.
Now all of a sudden that boss is having another 500,000 health. That extra
That's a
damage
problem.
the extra damage doesn't really matter, right? So that's where the difficulty comes in of going like, okay, if we want to successfully take this down, we're not here to carry, right? Like the group isn't a
No.
carry group. We will absolutely, once we get this figured out, we're gonna go back in. We're gonna help our guildies out. We're gonna make sure people learn these fights, experience this content.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a blast.
100%.
But that's just, so that puts me though. That's like the awkwardness I'm in right now. If
That's
that
hard,
makes
dude.
sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely a hard position to be in, and you're right. It makes people feel like they aren't good enough and that they're like just like garbage at the game. But it doesn't mean that.
No.
It basically means that at the moment, you know, maybe, you might be struggling with a specific mechanic, or you're struggling to, maybe unfortunately you're getting kind of pulled in one direction, and you haven't had time to focus, and there's a lot of things that it could throw into it, but I don't think it means you're a bad player.
Yeah, and the reality too is there's never going to be a point where you're the best player, right? Like
Oh heck no, dude.
unless you're listening from like I don't know, Liquid right now, and you're like, actually, I am the top.
Actually,
I am the top outlaw rogue in the entire world, right? Like,
well,
okay, cool, whatever, But for the rest of us, we'll never be the best, and that's okay, right?
nah,
Like, there's
dude,
always going to be somebody better.
not even close.
But the
Not
question is,
even close.
right? The question is, what are the proper ways for us to continue growing as a player? And so, when you're put in the position where you're actually holding the whole team back by even being present,
Yeah.
that becomes a complicated, puzzle, right? Because there are going to be moments where you and I would be like, oh, hey, here's a friend of ours in the guild. They're awesome. We adore them. They've never run a key before. Come do a +5 with us, right? And
Yeah.
maybe my advice for somebody
Right.
wanting to do a key for the first time is don't do a +5 for the first time. But with our
That's
group,
fair.
I know full and well we could take them to the +5 and it'll be just fine. And even if we
Yeah,
don't
oh,
time
yeah,
it, even if this person dies 30 times and it just kills our timer, so long as we complete it, a run with guildies is always fun.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a good time, and yeah, like you said, it's not really
Yeah.
at the end of the day. WoW is about the people. I mean, it's not like I could be trash at the game and just have a good relationship and have fun talking to people and enjoying my time playing it. I mean, I'm not saying like I'm crazy good at the game, and I'm fairly decent.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have fun playing it, right? Even if I'm running twos all the time, that's cool. Like,
Yeah. Well, that's even though, right? Like, you have to remember, WoW's an MMORPG, right? The first part of that is MMO, right? Like, it's a massive
MMO.
multiplayer online, which means that the
Yeah.
core of the game is the people, right? Like, you and I talk about it all the time. Like, some of our best experiences with the game isn't even the gameplay; it's just the people that we get to interact with. Our guild, right? Like, we're always shouting out our
100%,
guild here on the podcast, but it really truly is an amazing experience and creates fun and exciting opportunities.
Oh, dude, 100%. Like, I'm
Mhm.
telling you, one of the best dungeons I've ever run, we literally flopped it. Like, we were like 10 minutes under time. Like, we straight flopped the dungeon. But it
Yeah.
was just like, dude, I was playing with some guildies, and then and well, one wasn't a guildie, but he was like a pretty good close ties friends, and he's super good at the game,
Yeah.
and he was just playing a different spec, and me and him were just going back and forth with like, hey, it was freaking Court of Stars, dude, and you have
Mm.
those friggin' imps. And I was like, bro, how are you running Prot Warrior not having Shockwave, bro? You could interrupt all these imps at one time. And he was like, bro, you got sloppy hands. What's going on? And I was like, okay, you're a nerd.
that run is infamous in all the best ways, if I recall correctly.
Yeah.
But that is the fun of the game, though, right? And so it is tough, right? Like as our fill and raid leader for the moment, it's tough for me when I have to look at logs and be like, okay, let me go talk to this person and be like, hey, you're not meeting the standards we need for this specific content. But like even within our guild, we have runs that we do through normal where we're constantly coaching and helping players out. We have people who help out in mythics. We have players who are just reaching out to support and help. Like I know. This week I had to look at some logs and I connected two of our players together. One who is an exception, and I'm trying to keep details to a minimum, right? But one who is exceptional at that spec, kind of working through reviewing logs with him. And then I get a message from the guy a few days later, and he's like, dude, I took that advice. I've been practicing, and I gained like 25% of my DPS. Like,
there you go.
Those are the moments I'm excited for, right? Those are the things. And I think, I wanted to talk about Race to World first a little bit, but I think I want to circle back to that because where we're going right now, I think really plays into the M Plus conversation that's going on right now. Did we talk about M Plus last week? I forget a little bit.
For a little bit, not very long though.
Okay, so if I'm touching on a little bit of similarity last week, I do apologize for that. But one of the complaints right now, and I'd love to hear your thoughts on it before I maybe share. But one of the complaints we're hearing this season specifically, we've heard it forever, but this season seems to be amplified for whatever reason, is that group expectations are just too high for M+, right? Like people are really upset about not getting invited to M+ dungeons. When you hear that, like what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, so in my opinion, I really think it's two sides of the coin, right? So you have your side of the coin where someone's saying that and they are 100% willing and ready to do that dungeon, right? And then you have another side of the coin where someone is saying that and they are not ready to do the dungeon and they're getting like carries on their keys. And I'm not adding anyone specifically. Actually, it happened to me last night. I ran like a 5 mist and it was I didn't see a way out of that key unless I left it. And unfortunately, I don't do that very often. I rarely ever am the first one to leave a key, but I just had to leave that one because it was missed and like no one knew how to do the puzzle. Like, and I'm the tank and I can't tell you guys how to do the puzzle as the tank. Like, I mean, I could kite the boss over, but then that just makes the fight like 1,000 times harder. And oh my goodness, it was rough, and the DPS was already low to begin with. Like it, I mean, we were like halfway on the timer before we even got to the second boss. So
I think I hit that wall, and I'll let you continue
rough.
in a second. I think I hit that wall when I'm doing a dungeon. If we're pulling up, let's say there's 4 bosses, we're pulling up on boss number 3, and our timer runs out as we get to boss number 3. But we've just been slow. Like maybe it's taken us a couple tries on a couple bosses. Dude, I'll see it to the end. Whatevs. Like cool. Cool. If we are like over timer, right, on the second boss, halfway through the dungeon, we're over timer, and we're just dying, and we're dying, and we're dying, and I'm just like, okay, there is, like there hits a point where I look at it and go, guys, I actually don't have time to sit around, right? Like I don't ever leave them frustrated. I just leave when I go, okay, guys, I just can't stay any longer. Like I physically have to go.
Yeah.
I will find myself leaving. But why don't you continue with your thought process?
Yeah. So I think there is a high expectation, and I think it goes back to that two sides of the coin. I mean, you got to look at it. When someone looks at that coin and they see in the past they've been burnt by people that say they know how to do the dungeon and they don't.
Which there's a lot of right now. I'm finding a lot of people sign for dungeons at higher levels that are getting into them, right? And when I say higher levels, I don't mean crazy high. I just mean like 5s, right?
Oh, dude,
getting into 5s, and they're like, oh, I've never done this before.
Yeah, I know, right? And that's exactly the miss that I did, was a 5. And I'm like, what is going on? It's like when the tank is out DPSing all the DPS, that's a little bit of a problem.
Yep.
And so back to this coin analogy, I think people are seeing this coin and they're looking at the burnt side of just being like, hey, so many people have told me they know how to do this dungeon and they don't. So I'm only going to look at the side of the coin and just expect people and accept people that I know can do this dungeon. And unfortunately, that comes from eye level. I mean, you look at someone and we're all guilty of it, right? I mean, later in this podcast, we're going to do a spoiler alert. I think we're going to try to fit in like a little M+ game, a little M+ draft, and that might be a little fun. But like based off eye level, I'm 100% more certain on taking a lesser spec that is a higher eye level. And I'm not talking like, hey, this guy's 300 eye level and this guy's 400 eye level. I'm talking like, hey, this guy's 1,000 eye level and this guy's 2,000 eye level. I'm definitely taking the 2,000 guy, 100%.
Yeah.
And the only notion to get that is by playing the game. So you're kind of forced to run your own key, and then you take that same notion and it's hard. I mean, I can't imagine playing without a guild. I can't.
No, I think I've said that in videos before. I think I've had like YouTube guides where I'm just like, hey, if you want to do this, the best way to do it is to find a guild that you love to be
100%. Yeah.
Otherwise, it's just such a mess. It is such a mess trying to find groups. But also, there's another part to this puzzle, right? Because you're talking about that coin, right? On one side, people want to get into the content and they want to do the stuff. They don't want to get denied from groups. They don't want to be declined all the time. And then when people get declined as humans. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be really honest right now. As humans, when we get declined, we like to make up excuses, right? It's why somebody else's fault I'm getting declined. So immediately it's like, oh, they shouldn't be requiring an eye level that high. They shouldn't be wanting that kind of rating. Oh, they only want the meta right now, which really, honestly, this season, there's not a crazy meta. It's not like the end of Dragonflight. End of Dragonflight meta was bonkers, especially with like Og. Was it season 3 when we had the God comp?
That was end of season 2, because midway through season 2 is when they released.
I think season 3 was really bad. Like you had like it was really bad. So
because they had to nerf everything at the beginning of season 3, because literally you could not get in a dungeon unless you were an Og, Mage, or Shadow Priest as a DPS.
Yep. So, anyways, I've been watching this issue, and by the way, maybe this isn't really a real problem that's occurring. But I definitely see it on Twitter for sure. And I've definitely seen even some of my own guildmates kind of complain about it. Usually, though, more lightheartedly from the guildmates, more in jest. They kind of seem to understand it. But on Twitter, definitely, like on X, I'm seeing it just like be this toxic thing. And what's fascinating to me, right, to that point again, right, that one coin, I think people make excuses and they want to blame someone else for the problems that they're facing. Because, as you said, right, there's a second side to that coin. And the second side to that coin is somebody looking at a list of 30 people signed up. Because in some of those keys, dude, those queue lists get huge, right?
Dude, they're crazy.
Like, if I went right now and I had a +5 Arakara and I listed that,
oh my gosh,
I'd be getting everybody queuing up instantly. Now, all of a sudden, I have 30 people queued up. Right? One dude has 2.2k rating and like, I don't know, 620 eye level, but he just really needs that sack, right? He just really needs that sack. Am I really supposed to take the dude with like 125 eye level or 125 rating and like, I don't know, 600 eye level, right? 600 eye level, who has maybe one, like he doesn't even have like a timed Arakara yet, right? Am I really like, can you look at me in the face and say, "Hey, Swag, you should be taking the person with the low rating"? Well, guess what? It's not charity, right? Like I'm not a charity. I will do it all day long for my guild. If you're in my Discord and you're like, "Swag, you have some free time right now? I would love to like try and learn some Mythic Plus dungeons." Oh, dude, I will hop in. I will teach people any single day. But when I'm putting my own key up to the test and I want to push that key higher and I'm like, I want to go higher. And I don't go crazy high. Dude, I have a 7 right now, right? Like I have a 7. But when I want to make those pushes, I'm looking to get the best that I can possibly get. So if you're not going to position yourself as the best, don't expect to be treated as the best, right? And
No, I
but
agree.
there's a bigger piece too, not just the two sides of the coin, but I think there's an even bigger piece going on right now that people don't want to accept, right? Like we like to make excuses where we blame somebody else, but the reality is this: everybody has a key.
Yep.
And if you don't have a key, go run an M0, right? Like just go run an M0. Maybe try get into a +2 and get a key. Cool, right? Whatever, M0 +2, but you don't need a key for M0. But everybody has a key.
Yeah.
But for this to be a problem means that the vast majority of players do not want to post their own key. They want to ride on someone else's key.
Yeah.
And again, Arakar is the best example right now. Everybody, they want the sack, right? Everybody wants the sack from Arakar, which means every time an Arakar key gets posted, it is just getting inundated with
it's flooded, bro. My goodness.
Yes. And so I just think, also, I just want to point out, I'm looking at our Google Doc right now, and you're showing up as an anonymous narwhal for me, which I've not yet seen a narwhal yet, so I thought that was cool. Anyways.
That's because you didn't give me edit access.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that might be true. That might be true. So, did I not give you edit access? I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's okay.
Anyways, though, back to the conversation and we got a little off topic there. But it's that point of frustration for me because you want to go blame somebody else, but you yourself are not willing to post your own key because, I want to chase rating in that specific dungeon. And so I think we have a bunch of players right now, a large number of players right now who are only focused on themselves, which is fine. Yeah. It's fine to do that, but they're so focused on themselves, their own rating, their own goals, their own scores, that the moment somebody else is also going, hey, I just want to invite the most qualified players to my group, they struggle to understand that and comprehend that. And so it is this very interesting dynamic going on right now that I'm watching, and it seems to progressively get worse and worse every season.
Yeah, and to touch on that a little bit, I do think it's hard because I struggle with that a lot too. I'm kind of in that boat of people that don't like to run their own key, and there's two reasons why I don't like to run my own key. The first reason typically only applies to like now. I have a key that I don't feel comfortable running, and right now I have a Siege of Borealis, and I've never run that dungeon.
Same. I hate Borealis. I have a 7 Borealis. I don't want to touch it.
Yeah, and that's the point. So like, I have a 5 Borealis right now, and I do not feel comfortable whatsoever doing a 5 Borealis.
Yep.
So I guess I could pug someone's 5 and try to get a new key. But yeah, I mean that's probably what I'll do because I'm not ready to learn.
But at the same time though, right? Like it's probably fair to say, hey, I'm not expecting other people to invite me to their key just because I don't want to run mine.
Yeah, and that's a good point. It is, and I think that's kind of segues into my second point a little bit, where people just don't want that responsibility. They don't want the control. I mean, most people don't feel like they want to lead the key, and I think some of it has to do with just maybe fear that like the key is just going to go like horribly and they'll get blamed for it. Like, why didn't you pick better people to run? Like, or like, hey, maybe you have a 5 and you're not geared up enough to do a 5, but you get people that are, and maybe you're underachieving, so it feels more like a carry. So I do understand like a little bit of not wanting to push your own key just for personal reasons, but I mean, just do it. Like, what's the worst that can happen? Your group flops and you never talk to those people ever again. Like,
right. Yeah, right. And the reality is, if your key gets lowered, you can just do another one. And the fun thing too is when you post your own key, like, dude, you get to pick the best, right? Like, you're not hoping somebody else made good choices. You get to be the one looking at the list, going like, oh, this person's really geared, this person's really prepared, they know the stuff. This is a good spec for this dungeon, and that helps out a ton. I think a lot of times,
being a little bit of devil's advocate, then you feel bad for not taking people that might easily and it kind of touches on your point earlier. Like, 100%. You're going to take that person that says that they have the 2000 eye level, they've ran like a plus 1,000 on that key and you're only asking for like a +5, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that person that's like, 500 eye level and, pretty decent, like maybe they've run like a 3 of that same dungeon and you're looking for a 5, like they are probably well qualified to do that dungeon.
You know what I say to them though?
What?
Join my guild.
Oh my gosh.
Then I'll do the dungeon. No, but the last piece I want to touch upon for that mythic conversation though is definitely like, because again, most of this is the player problem. Like most of this is us, right? Having our issues as players and our preferences. It's all preference, right? 100% is just preference of what we want that creates that experience. I will say though, the one small bit that I do think falls on Blizzard is the healer tank problem, right? Because again, at the end of the day, I'm not getting 100 tanks signing up for my. Well, I guess I'm a tank, so I never get tanks signing up. I'm not getting 100 healers signing up for my dungeons, right? I'm getting 100 DPS, right? If I post at Arakara, getting DPS out the wazoo, I'm probably just getting a small handful of healers queuing. So there's definitely like an abundance of DPS and a shortage of tanks and healers. And what's fascinating to me is going into this expansion, Blizzard like hard nerfed tanks. Like, I actually really dislike the tank changes. Blood just, I mean, I'm still a blood tank. It's what I do. But, man, I'm getting wrecked. I don't feel like I have this for ability. I feel so dependent on my healer, which I don't think tanks being dependent on healers is fun gameplay. It's just not.
It's not.
And to some people they might be, well, that's the beauty of the group, right? You are reliant. But then it's like, okay, so what am I actually doing, right? Like if I'm dependent on the healer, what the heck am I actually doing? Like what is my responsibility? Whereas I feel like the tank's responsibility is its own survival, right? And then the healer is just group wide as a whole. But the second part too, and tanks are hard because I think tanks also have like social pressure, right? You feel responsible about the pacing of the group, knowing the content, right? So tanking, I don't think is actually that hard. I think tanking is a very easy role to play.
Yeah,
I think it's just socially pressured. Healing's a fascinating one, right? Because
it is.
Healing's interesting because I think everybody wants something different for healing, and what they want is very contradictory. So healing, I still think that the DPS, I say this all the time, I anger people with this, the DPS meta for healing is the best healing meta. What I mean by that is that healers who are also doing damage while they're healing, whether it's a part of the rotation, looking at like Holy Pallies, Fist Weaving Monks, right? Whether it's a part of the rotation or just separate, right? Like I love Battle Shaman, right? Like I love throwing out a couple Riptides and then slinging meatballs at people. It's that to me is so yeah. It's
what?
Yeah, no, one of their attacks just looks like you're throwing meatballs. Although I think they're redoing the design for that, so we'll see.
Oh, that's good.
But I love that, and the reason why I love the DPS meta for healers is because it means that you're not panic stressing the entire time you're healing, but instead your priority is healing. Your priority is to keep the group alive. But the moment that relaxes a little bit, you're then spending your time filling it with some damage. So you're going, okay, I don't need to heal right now. Everybody's good. Everybody's topped off. I'm going to do a little bit of damage to help out, right? That to me feels like the right balance. The problem right now is players are getting into groups. They were expected to do damage, and they were getting angry because they're like, I don't want to do damage. I just want to heal. And I think there's two different understandings for that phrase. I don't want to do damage. I just want to heal. There's one, which is what I think the people who say it, what they really mean is, hey, I want this to be like WoW was back in the day, where I would do a dungeon, I'd heal during combat a little bit, but then like half the time I'm just kind of standing there. I'm just kind of like waiting for health to go down, and I'll heal some more, and I'm waiting, and I'm healing some more. It's very relaxed. It's very enjoyable. And then like we kill some trash, and I sit down and I drink while everybody waits for me, and then we move on to the next pack of trash. But what players who do maybe higher keys and even just medium level keys begin to understand very quickly that healing only, no DPS, means I am constantly spamming and stressing out over my heals all the time. And if I screw up, the group wipes, right? Like, it's not like DPS. It's not like a DPS where DPS screws up a little bit. It's like, oh no, my rotation wasn't perfect. My damage was a little bit lower. Wow. Right? Like a healer, it's like, oh crap, I screwed up the rotation and somebody died.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally different experience. And so you're taking, when a lot of people think of healer, they think of like, oh, hey, this is going to be the relaxing role. This is the easy, soft role. And it's actually probably the most stressful role in the game. And I think the DPS meta just changes that. The DPS meta for healing just says, hey, hey, you're topping off health, you're keeping everybody alive. But there's going to be a lot of moments where because of your hot spells or other things that you're not necessarily throwing heals out, now you can fill that time with some damage. Damage isn't stressful. Damage is just like, oh, hey, most healers had like a 2-button rotation for damage. Maybe 3 if you were like extra fancy, right? So it wasn't even complicated. And it just made it easy. And the nice thing was for the players who really, really, really did not want to do any damage whatsoever because they're stubborn, well, guess what? Go do a +2 key, throw out a couple heals, stand there, right? Stand there and wait for them to take some more damage and throw a couple more heals. That's fine too. Like, cool. But it meant that like on all ends of the spectrum, healers were able to have a more enjoyable experience. I think people just hated when they got called out for doing nothing, right? I think people hated when they just stood there and did nothing and somebody was like, hey, can you do some damage?
Yeah, and to that point, I do think it is one of those things where when you're a healer, you kind of focus on mainly healing, right? And it's like, do I even know how to press those other buttons? Because like I think as a tank, like there's times where I'm like, oh, I'm doing all this damage, and for blood specifically, I'm like, oh wait, I don't have enough runic power to do a death strike, and that's bad.
Yep.
And they're in that moment of thinking like, oh wait, I'm wasting all my mana on doing attacks.
Yeah.
What's gonna happen when I hit 50% mana and then I can't heal people because I'm gonna run out of mana
now,
by the end of this fight?
What I will say the counter to that actually. So not to be the guy, but the counter to that.
You're fine.
DPS abilities on healers almost use like basically nothing in terms of like mana.
And that's kind of what I figured.
Yeah, to the point where like it almost feels like your mana bar is refilling. It's kind of funny.
Yeah, because I'm pretty sure Fistweaver, it's all physical attacks. Like all the DPS is purely physical.
Yep. So it actually usually works out very well. Even on my shaman, right when I was casting, it did almost nothing. In fact, I actually found that by forcing myself to do some DPS, my mana was always higher because I wasn't feeling like I had to keep casting things, right? I wasn't just like spam casting like I don't know, chain heal, right? Going like, oh well, maybe we'll take some damage. Let me just spam some chain heals out there. It was like, okay, they're topped off. I don't really have to do anything until they hit about 75-60% health, and then maybe I should start to worry. I'm gonna throw some meatballs. I'll shoot some lightning, and then their health is getting low again. Let me go top them off. That was yeah. So it is very interesting. I think sometimes players don't know what they need to do in order to have the experience that they want, and so what they ask for actually like hinders that. And I think all of that plays into the Mythic Plus conversation right now, though, that's going on with everything, if that makes sense.
No, it does. And I just want to take like a side note there, just really quick, and say if you are mainly like a DPS and you're looking to try to heal, don't let that deter you. Like, if you want to heal, try healing. But I was just looking at this and I'm like, Mistweaver is just like the perfect class to like DPS and heal at the same time. So
I like Holy Pally for that too.
Oh, and Holy Pally is really good. That's just like I don't know why that just came off my head, and I was like, I feel like I just have to say this.
You play a little Fistweaver, right?
Oh yeah, I love Fistweaver. It is like the funnest class ever. It's just one of those things where it's like I like feel terrible for healers most of the time because they just get like, oh my goodness, they get the terrible end of the stick every single time. Yeah,
well that's why I'm like ranting about this, because I actually think healers have been not all healers. I actually think there's a loud vocal section of healers that have been advocating for something that's actually hurtful towards their overall experience, and they think they're asking for something that'll make it better. And really, when Blizzard hears, oh, I just want to heal, I don't want to worry about DPSing, Blizzard goes, oh, let's crank up the amount of damage that trash is doing, right? And I think when players say that, they're like, hey, can you just remove our offensive abilities so we can't use them? And Blizzard's hearing like, oh, there's not enough healing. Healers want more. They want to heal more. They want more. And that's hard because, right, as a DPS, you're kind of playing this fun competitive game as a DPS where you're like, can I out heal the people with me? Can I like do better? Like I'm challenging myself. Can I hit my rotation perfectly to juice out a little bit more percentage of damage? This is fun. This is exciting. And then healers are over there like sweating, like slamming keys, trying their hardest because they know if somebody dies, guess what? Everybody's going to turn and look at them and they're getting the blame. So it is a very interesting role that like on the surface appears to be the soft, gentle, patient role to play. And in reality, it's like the really stressful one. I actually would say tanking isn't too bad, but DPS probably, I think obviously the player base would agree based upon numbers alone that DPS seems to be the most enjoyable role though to play in a group.
Yeah. Oh, it's the most versatile. It 100% is. Like, I mean, yeah. There's like it's not like if you're sagging a little bit, it's not like it's not like a game changer. Like if you're like a tiny bit low on DPS for the end game content you're doing, but like if your tank is just garbage, then you're
what can you do, right?
Yeah, or like your healer's just not outputting the numbers they should, then it's just like game over basically, right?
Oh yeah. And especially too, you hit that mid range of keys where a lot of players don't realize that it's also on their responsibility to help them stay alive, right? So you have this weird spot in that like 5 to 9 range, where players don't know that it's on them to like use defensives and personals and whatnot to stay alive. And so like all of a sudden they're just adding more healing, right? They're adding more healing to the healer to do it. It's all crazy. But kind of moving on from that Mythic Plus conversation, because I know we have even more to talk about with Mythic Plus. Why don't we do our tips of the day right here? Because both those actually I think are M Plus related.
The day? That's kind of inconclusive because tip of the week.
Tip of the week. Boom. Yeah, I guess it's tip of the week, right? For the whole week. I think that's what we've said up to this point. I just never remember when that wrote it down.
Tip of the week. We should get a jingle.
Yeah. We can probably try to record one. We can make that work. I don't know. I don't know. So I'll give mine first because I'll give you a second to double check with yours. But in Mists of Tyrannus Scythe, this is something that if you played back in the day, you would know. But if you're a little bit newer, or maybe you didn't even know back then, in Mists of Tyrannus Scythe, Miss Caller, so she is the second boss, a little bit of a fairy boss that you have to deal with all the what are they called? The illusions, right? The illusions pop up. You have to figure out which one's the right one to kill to go back to the boss again. If the illusion gets hit by one of the balls that goes out, it actually will do 20% of the illusion's health. And so you want to try and line that up. And the balls usually target onto like wherever players are standing at the moment. So as the tank, I often try to do it myself, where I'll try to like get a ball to go like right through the enemy, even like maybe cutting the boss up to the illusion, just so I can like really make sure that all the players who are fighting it can see where the arrows are going to be. I don't know how much it stacks up though. It could stack, but I haven't seen anybody like one shot it, and I know there've been a couple times where like I've seen like 3 balls go through it right at once, and it didn't seem to do an overwhelming amount of damage. So if it stacks, I don't see it stacking more than twice, but I haven't tested that. All I know though is 1 ball for sure will do 20% of the illusion's health.
Yeah,
and that saves a good amount of time on that phase.
Yeah, that saves a lot of time, honestly. Yeah, because that's like, that's like one of the hardest things.
Oh, absolutely.
That puzzle, dude. Oh my goodness. If you don't know that puzzle yet,
players are struggling with it. Yeah, I mean, and just to explain, so if you've done, and I'm gonna make this really quick. If you've done Mists of Tyrannus Scythe and you're like, I don't understand how this puzzle works. I have somebody else doing the maze, and then when we get to the boss, I never know which one to fight. I just go to where everybody else is. You want to find the one that is the most unique from the rest, right? So like which of the symbols is different, like the most different, not just different, but the most different from all the other symbols. So like on the boss, you'll have 4 illusions pop up, and then the symbols are a mix of rings or no ring, right? So there's either a ring around it or no ring, and then it's either inside that, and then it's like a flower or a leaf, and then that flower or leaf is either filled in or not filled in, right? It's just the outline. And so your job is to go, okay, right, is there a ring or no ring? Is it a leaf or flower? Is it filled or unfilled, right? And so you want to try and figure out. So if every one of them has a ring on them and then one does not have a ring on it, it's probably that one. Sometimes it's a little bit more complicated than that. And so that's why I say you want to find the one that is the most the most different from the others.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's typically they double up. So you're going to have
Mhm.
two that, like, two have a ring, two don't have a ring, two are leaves, two are flowers, and then three are probably not filled in, and one isn't filled in, and it's the one that's not filled in. Yeah,
Yep. That's how that works.
it's definitely a time matter, and hopefully they update the week horror soon.
Yeah. What I would do, what I would really advise you do if you're listening and you're like, I'm just not good at that. I avoid it as much as I can. The problem is you're going to end up in the group that really sucks at doing it, and they're
Yeah.
probably using the add-on or the weak aura that makes the maze easier.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're going to find yourself at the boss with a group that has like no clue how to do that mechanic. And so what I would suggest, if you're listening right now and you don't normally deal with it, you try to ignore as much as you can, I would try, even if somebody else is already solving it, I would go through the maze with the groups and try yourself to solve the puzzle each time. Even if you're not the one going through, right? Even if you're like, hey, I don't trust myself enough to be the one going through the doorway to see if it works or not, at least try to mentally see if you can solve it and see how many you get right, how many you get wrong, and keep practicing that because it will come to bite you on the boss if you don't.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. Yeah.
All right, Chicken, what's your tip?
So, similar on those lines, talking about dungeons today, we've been talking about a lot of M+, and if you're not aware, there are 4 dungeons in this rotation that do actually have what we consider well, 2 of them have racial buffs or class buffs, and then just two other small tips. So back in Tirana, obviously you got the mushrooms and you have the little skip at the beginning. You don't apparently have to be Night Fae for those anymore, which I just learned today.
That's correct. Yeah, you can pick up the stat mushrooms. Like you can clear away any of the vines without being
yes,
Night Fae.
I learned this morning, which I'm kind of surprised they did that, to be honest. Anyways, for Necrotic Wake, you know, the spears and all the things that are lying when you're walking up to the second boss, right?
Mm-hmm.
You can grab those. Don't use them for the second boss, obviously, because the second boss is a joke. You save them for the third boss because this third boss is mad rough. You got to wait for the chain to pull him, and it just takes forever. And I've heard on even higher keys that it basically is like the only way to time the key is to save those spears and stuff because you just don't have enough DPS to get the boss down in time. I mean, when they jump back up, what is the name of that boss? I always forget.
Oh, it's the Stitch Flesh guy, but I don't think the boss is called Stitch Flesh. I just know he's always yelling,
I always
Stitch
just call
Flesh.
him Meat Grinder, dude.
Yeah, but yeah, right. It's the skeleton boy that's standing on the platform, right? And when the abominations grip him down off the platform, you have a short period of time to burn his health down, right?
Like 30 seconds, if that?
And so the spears help cut a lot of that time, a lot of that health out, and potentially skip a whole phase of that.
Yeah. And then the 2 War Within dungeons. We got City of Threads and Stone Vaults. We got City of Threads. If you are rogue priest engineers, you'll find these little like hologram statues that are actually called oh my goodness, what is the queen? Oh my goodness. Queen, what is it's the raid boss. Yeah, that one. That's what they're actually called. They're holograms of her. And if you don't even, I think you have to talk to the first one. Mm-hmm. If you talk to one of them, it automatically just gives you a buff for the rest of them that you walk by. I don't think you have to talk to all of them. I think you have to just talk to the very first one in the dungeon, and then when you walk by the other ones, it'll just give you the buff.
Okay. Dope. I've never even tried them before.
Oh, yeah. I did it actually this morning. It gives you a 15% healing and damage increase, and then 50% movement. That's pretty good. And then,
who does that work for again?
That is rogues, priests, and engineers. And I thought there was another one. Maybe I don't know. I thought I was missing one. Oh, no. It is just those 3. Yeah. And then in Stone Vault, you have these iron bars that you can go up to, and you got to be a dwarf, warrior, or blacksmith. That's kind of interesting that they did one race and then a profession and a class. Interesting. But then if you go up to those, you get, I'm not sure what the buff is offhand.
I don't remember. I think it's like a stat buff potentially, like kind of similar to City of Threads.
Okay. Yeah, so I think it's like a verse buff. 10% verse. That's what it is. And that's lasts the whole entire dungeon. So, I mean, those are some pretty easy stat clears because the mushrooms in Mist give you 10% strength, agility, or intellect.
Yeah.
So, those are pretty good buffs. I mean, come on. You're missing out on those guys.
Oh, for sure. And especially that verse, dude. You know how much gold I spend on versatility flasks?
Oh gosh.
Oh my gosh,
lot,
dude. Oh, dude, the auction house is so
rough.
expensive right now.
It's rough.
Dude, so we're gonna play a game in just a second about Mythic Plus. We've been talking a lot about Mythic Plus, just like a crazy amount. But real quick, just an update on Race to World First, because I love watching Race to World First, man. I think it's so fun. I don't want to linger on it too much, but it's just fun for me to watch. I root for Liquid every time because, listen, I always feel like it's down to Liquid or Echo, and Liquid's like the American guild, so it represents me. And so I believe Liquid is about roughly 10%. Oh, no. Oh, it changed during the podcast. Oh, it's changed since before podcast starts. So they're at 3.4% now.
3%.
Oh my gosh. So Echo is still 25. Method is 27. So Method's not too far behind. And that Chinese guild that we were a little worried about at the start because they went in with like pretty juicy gear.
Yeah.
They're not doing so high. I think they're at 56% on the boss. Now they also have the least number. Well, no. Method has the fewest number of pulls. So Chinese guild not doing super hot. But you have to remember they also haven't really had like WoW to play over the last couple of years.
Oh yeah.
But Liquid,
I think they'll be pretty dangerous next season.
Liquid figured something out because I guess we were spoiled because the last Race to World First was like they were like 1 or 2% away from each other. It was freaking close. But this one, Liquid seems to have figured something out that Echo just hasn't gotten yet, or Method just hasn't gotten yet, and so it's looking good. I like seeing it. But Chicken, you have a game for us that you want to play, right?
Yeah. Let's touch on that.
Sick.
And we can kind of go in that. Yeah. So we've been talking a lot about M+. Obviously, that's I'd say our bread and butter, right? We do a lot of M+. We raid, but I personally like M+ a little more.
Yeah.
So we're gonna do like a mock draft of our best Mythic Plus team. And just to preface this, we are not experts. So don't take our word for this, and don't say, hey, Swag and Chicken said I need to have a survival hunter on my M+ team because it's the best spec in the game. So I'm not going to take anyone unless you're a survival hunter. Don't do that.
Yeah, we're just having fun. We're just goofing.
Yeah, this is purely our opinion. I mean, we've run. How many dungeons do you think you've run this season?
Dude, probably not a crazy amount. I want to say like 40, probably.
How many?
Maybe like 30, 40.
Like
40.
M+?
Yeah.
No way. Stop.
I don't know, dude. I'm bad at numbers, man. I'm bad at numbers.
I've maybe run like 15, and in those 15, I don't think I've ever had one spec that's like clearly stood out, like as like this is like a goated spec, right?
There's definitely some meta. There's definitely some meta right now, but it's not crazy. There's a lot more diversity.
Yeah, it's not. It really is
a lot more diversity than we've seen in the past, which is really good.
So we should have figured out who's going first.
Why don't you go first? So basically, what you're saying is we're gonna build our M+ team. However, are we allowed to use the same spec? So if you say something, am I allowed to pick the same thing? Or once you pick, am I stuck? Do I have to pick something else? Like, can I not? So like, for example, if you say Affliction Warlock for DPS, am I also allowed to bring an Affliction Warlock? Or do I have to now pick something else?
You have to pick something else. So it'd be perfect. Like a typical like mock draft or like fantasy draft for like a sport. Like obviously you can't, like two people can't be on the same team, right?
Okay, perfect.
So that's why I'm like, maybe we should try to have like an official like starter thing. Yeah, if you want to flip a coin or something real quick.
No, I don't mind. I don't mind seeding myself to second. I think
Are you sure?
yeah, you're totally fine with me.
Okay, I wanted to add a little spicy, juicy stipulation at the end, and tell me if you don't want to do this because it does make it a little more strategic for us.
Okay, what is it? You tell me.
So I want to add that you can't take the same class if someone already has a spec from that class.
Okay, so we're going like class, not just spec. Okay,
Yeah,
dope.
so like if I pick a feral druid, you cannot pick any druids.
Dope for me. I'll take it.
Are you cool with that?
Yeah, totally cool. I think
Because
that's
it
fun.
does add a little bit of, because there are some classes in the game that literally every spec is like goated right now.
Yeah. How many classes are in WoW? 12.
There is 12
or 13. Yeah, perfect.
Oh,
So
there's 13.
yeah,
13. So we'll definitely have enough picks, but it might require us to be a little more strategic on how we pick.
I'm good with that. That'll be fun.
So, okay.
All right.
I think you're allowing me to go first here.
I am.
Which I think personally is a bad play. I really think that
I got strat. I got strat right now, especially with these rule changes. I think I got some strat going.
You got some strat?
Yeah.
Well, the first pick in my 2024 Mythic Plus draft, I think it's the Michael Jordan of WoW right now. It's got to be Og, man. Like if I see I don't think it's near as bad as what it was in
Not
like
as wild as it was
Dragonflight.
before. Yeah.
Dragonflight Season 2, if you had an Og in your queue, like 100% you were playing that. Like people would put that in their comments that they were Og before they updated the UI, and now you can see it. Like Og is just, I mean, they got Lust, they got a pseudo raid buff, they got a Dispel, they got a really good CC. Like, dude, Og is. Ugh.
Oh yeah, especially the tank and healing benefits you're gonna be getting from them. It helps a ton.
Og is, I think, easily, and I don't think it's as good as what it was, but I still think it has a high contention for use. And just to specify, I think we're kind of doing like mid-tier keys. Like we're not talking like +2s and we're not talking like +10s. I think we're talking like a 5 or a 6,
I think,
right?
Yeah, well, I would say probably maybe that 5 to 10 range, right? That's
okay.
That's like your upper medium range, right? That's kind of where we live. We're not saying like, hey, if you're running a 15 this week, this is what you should do, or God forbid a 20. All right, so you're taking Og. Let me move that. I have the visual in front of me too, so I can keep track of what you're picking as well. All right, I'm trying to think. Because part of my thought process is like I know what I want for the most part, and I'm trying to think. Okay, which are the ones that are like most likely can get snagged, and which are the ones I can like hold out for later. This one's a risky one. Oh gosh, I don't know. There's two I really like. I'm gonna go next with Arcane Mage. I think I'm going with.
Oof.
Arcane Mage is just really strong right now. It's really strong, and it feels great. Arcane Mage feels like super, super good. Lots of damage. Decent mobility right now, which feels awesome. They're giving you some extra dispels in your group. It's good. It's good.
Lust.
Yes, and Lust, right? Yeah. You have your Lust as well, which is a huge benefit.
No, that was a pretty clutch pick because Frost. I mean, Frost is really good too. I mean, Frost Mage.
Yeah, but
I think I would take either.
Arcane's just crushing it right now.
But Arcane is definitely like the superior spec. But I mean, I would take a Frost. I mean, most Frosts are doing pretty good.
You can't now, dude.
Point.
Frost is off limits.
I know. I think that was a good pick, and I think your second pick was one of these two, and I think it might have done a little more damage because I really, well, maybe not. I think for my second, what was that?
You gotta pick. You gotta pick something.
Yeah, I think for my second one, I think I'm going Enhancement Shaman. Like,
you definitely took one of the spots I was trying to take, but I wasn't taking Enhancement.
That was hard because I think I could have gone any of those specs. I think Shaman
Resto is easily the best healer by
dude,
miles.
I know,
and
I really wanted to pull that, but like even healers, like I think Resto is definitely the best, but I don't think they're like.
No. Oh well, I'm also thinking like high keys. Resto becomes I don't know if there's any healer close to Resto right now.
No, definitely not for high keys when you're talking like trying to get like a fair amount of damage in, and as well as like topping off the group. But for like, I think like those 5, 6 where you're just a little more focused on healing and doing like a little bit of DPS, I think most of the healers are pretty fair. But yeah, it hurt me a little bit, but I think enhancement, and the enhancement's getting buffed again, dude. Like enhancement's nuts. Like it's easily,
Yeah.
and dude, elemental is pretty good too. So I just personally think enhancement's a really good spec, dude.
Mm-hmm. No, fair.
And
Oh,
lust.
all right.
Double
I'm gonna have to
lust.
figure this healer spot because we
Oh,
lost
that is
Resto,
true. We lost
and
Prez.
we lost Prez, which were kind of the two really solid ones.
Yeah, they
Okay,
are.
okay. Don't hate me for this one. I got my eye though on another class I'm actually pretty hyped to have on my team. I'm going with the Frosty K.
Oh, dang it. That was on my list.
Yeah, man, Frosty K, which knocks blood out of the contender for both of us. Since I know we do M plus on Blood DK. But dude,
Dude.
I like Frosty K. Just feels good. You're not getting a ton of utility. Like you have some stuff like AMZ, but you're not really using AMZ in dungeons too much.
Yeah.
But it's just the damage is good. It's clean damage. The other thing I think about a lot too is battle res. And
Oh, yeah,
it
battle
gives you
res
a
is
good
big.
battle res, especially for myself because I normally play Blood DK main, and I have battle res, but then I panic when I die, and I'm like, crap, shoot, I'm
Yeah.
the tank, nobody can get me up. So Frosty K, big deal there. That's what I'm taking.
That actually hurt a little bit. I think that was that might have been my second pick. It was between one or two. It was between one and another.
Yeah.
And I think I'm struggling between two of them right now, but I think if I grab this one, it kind of hurts you a little bit.
Okay.
So I think I'm gonna take Prot Warrior.
Ooh, okay, that's not bad. Prot Warrior's not bad.
And I think Prot Warrior, in terms of M plus, is really good right now because I don't think they really nerfed much when they did the big tank tuning. Because I mean, Prot Warrior wasn't really being used much. It was mostly Prot Pally.
Yeah.
And I mean, outside of like season 1 of Dragonflight, where Prot Warrior was just like OP, and then they nerfed it. But I think Prot Warrior was already kind of like what they wanted tanks to look like. So I don't think they really had to do much to it. And I really think that it's kind of stood out a good bit in M plus this season.
No, Prot Warrior's good. And you have a couple moments too that you can spell reflect and which is nice.
Yeah, it's a pretty good one. The few DPS dungeons I've done, I ran one with a Prot Warrior, and they were putting out some DPS. They were doing very well.
Yeah.
And that was kind of like a 2-for-1 because it took Fury out, and Fury is Fury's kind of nuts right now too.
I get that. All right, is it my turn now?
Yeah, it's your turn.
Okay, so you took Prot Warrior, so you got your tank figured out. I still haven't figured out a tank yet. The nice thing though, and I'm kind of holding off on tank right now because honestly a lot of tanks outside of, if I'm being honest, Pally, all the tanks are pretty solid. Blood is a great pug tank, I think.
Yeah, it is.
But not necessary. There's a lot of great tanks. I'm actually gonna make a play, and this might hurt you long term. We'll see how it feels. I'm actually gonna go for M plus. I don't really care for him in raid too much right now, but M plus, I'm gonna take. I hope I'm not shooting myself in the foot for this one. I'm gonna take Resto Shaman. And I'm taking Resto Shaman because Resto Shaman's it's a solid healer. Like it's a good healer. For M plus. However, I really need that Mark of the Wild. And I don't think I want it to be a DPS slot. I could have taken it as a tank, but then I was like afraid of whatever I would have had left over for healing.
Okay. Yeah.
So I ended up going, I'm with that route.
Gotcha.
I want that Mark of the Wild, dude. Mark of the Wild's so good.
It is good, and you kind of confused me there because you said Resto Shaman. I was like, wait a
Oh,
second.
Resto Druid. Sorry,
You're fine. You're good.
my bad. Resto Druid. Resto Druid.
No, I think that's a fair pick because, I mean, I think there's one thing that I could do that might really I think Resto Druid is going to be pretty good. I think they're going to buff it, and it's probably going to be like top healing. And again, I feel like all the healers are pretty balanced right now. Outside of obviously Resto Shaman is like nutty right now.
Yep.
So, this kind of hurts me for my next one because there's two that I'm choosing between, and I think I'm going to go with.
I already know what you're doing. I know what you're doing, and you're not doing because you want it. You're doing because I know you know where I'm going.
Actually, I'm not gonna do that because I think I can get a decent one at the end of the day. I think I'm gonna take Affliction.
Oh, that's not at all what I thought you were gonna do. Oh,
I think I know what you thought I was gonna do.
yeah,
and that would have really hurt you because I think I know where you're going.
Dude, I don't have one option. I'm not choosing the other.
You too.
No, I'm not choosing the other, dude.
No, I'll save you on that one. I really do like Warlock, and I think Affliction is probably the better of the three the three specs. Either that or Demo is really good. I don't think Destro's really where it's at.
Oh, you know what? Actually, never mind. I totally forgot about the entire class right now. I would have been fine. We're okay. We're safe.
Yeah. I know what class you forgot about. Oh, dang.
Rip.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Affliction is the one you want to be looking out for.
Mm-hmm. No, Affliction's looking
and you got
pretty
cookies.
good.
You got a lot of stuff with Affliction.
Health stones go a long way for some of those fights.
Yeah, dude. And I never frown upon a good Warlock. They help you summon people that don't feel like coming to your dungeon.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
So you're up, sir.
All right. So I have choice. I have choice for next, and I'm gonna go with my tank. And you and I were vaguely kind of referencing this because we know each other well enough. So for everybody listening who's like, what the heck are they talking about? Chicken was thinking about taking Mistweaver, most likely as his healer.
Was,
as his healer, which I'd forgotten that Vengeance Demon Hunter was a thing for a moment. And so my mind was like, crap, I can't take Brewmaster. I'd have to take Prot Paladin. And Prot Paladin, I love Prot Paladin. I am a great Prot Paladin. All right. However, it's not great right now.
It's not there right now.
If you enjoy playing it, you enjoy playing it. It's not the bee's knees at the moment. I think a lot of people would tell me to take Vengeance Demon Hunter as my tank. If I'm being really honest, I probably should take Vengeance Demon Hunter as my tank. The damage on Vengeance is great. You still have good utility for silences and things like that. However, I've been really enjoying Brewmaster. It's my secondary tank right now. It's been fun. I've been enjoying dungeons. Actually, even to the point where like my healer who always heals for me in keys was like, Swag, your 20 eye level lower Brewmaster is easier for me to heal now than your Blood DK. I'm like, oh, which is unheard of. Normally, you just don't even have to heal my Blood DK. I just roll, right? And so, but instead of metaphorically rolling, this time I'll be literally rolling with a Brewmaster tank. And so I'm gonna take Brewmaster. And you know what? If I was being like totally fair, Vengeance is probably the better tank, in all honesty. But I really just love playing Brewmaster. It's fun to me. Also, I will say though, the one thing Brewmaster does well is there's a lot of bosses right now in M+ that just hit hard. Like single individual hits that just like wreck your health. And I was finding on my Blood DK that I was struggling on some of these fights to actually like live them and survive through them. And so Brew Stagger actually is one of the craziest abilities. If you get used to using Stagger, right? Stagger is so wonderful. It's a complicated tank to play, but Brew is actually, I think, really good right now. Way better than people realize. I don't know if the damage is quite there for it, but the tankiness, especially if we're saying that 5 to 10 key range, Brewmaster's awesome.
You got that 5% too, dude.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, and you have that melee, which doesn't really do a lot for me in the build that I have right now, though.
Really?
Well, because I mean, for the comp that we're doing, right?
Oh, that's fair. That's fair.
It's 5% for physical damage. Frost DK maybe does some physical damage.
A Blit, dude.
Is a Blit physical, or is that like
it is
that magic? Okay.
Yeah, a Blit's physical.
There you go. Perfect.
There you go. Yeah, you wouldn't be getting much from Arcane.
No, nothing from Arcane.
Oh my goodness.
Maybe if our resto druid is cat weaving, let's assume they're cat
Oh
weaving,
my
right?
goodness.
So I'm juicing an extra 5% out of cat form on.
Dude, that's a
resto
reach.
shaman.
That's a huge reach.
Yeah, probably.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, so I'm left with a healer, and I literally only have 3 options, and I think I'm gonna go the way that you don't assume,
Okay.
and I think I'm gonna take Holy Paladin.
No, dude, Holy Paladin's good. Holy Paladin's
Because
good right now. Yeah.
it was between that or Holy Priest,
Mhm.
because I think they both bring a lot to the table.
Also gives you a B
And-
res that you don't have right now.
Yeah, that's true. I don't have a B res, and you got the aura, you got not another lust.
Holy Pally
I
feels
got
good.
2.
Holy Pally does feel good.
Yeah, I think Holy Pally is where it's
Yeah.
at. I think they're good. N+.
Especially like right now, you're stacking your group really well to like balance out gear drops, right?
Yeah.
You got 2 plate wearers now, 2 mail wearers, so that way if like you get an overlap of gear, you can like pass it around.
Yeah.
If that matters.
Yeah. Oh, that's true. That's true.
Yeah, dude, plate stack your whole group.
Oh my gosh.
Dude, what if we did this and my whole group was just plate, right? Like Prot Pally, or Prot Warrior, Holy Pally, DK. Oh, I guess that's all of them right there, right? Never mind.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, my comp is just purely so I can pass gear around.
Oh my goodness.
All right, so you're taking the holy.
Yeah. And you got a fair amount of choices left for DPS.
I do.
I have a feeling I know what
do.
you're gonna take though.
Oh gosh, you had Affliction Warlock, right?
Yes.
I just want to make sure my everything was up to date. I'm looking at everything that I want to take and what like will work, what won't work. The problem too is a lot of what's left, right? I have Demon Hunters left. I have Hunters
Mhm.
left. I have Rogues left.
Yes.
And I think that's it, right? It's just those 3.
Yes. That's it.
And so the problem here is I'm actually not like entirely up to date on Hunters and Rogues and Demon Hunters. They're actually probably like the 3 that I'm the least familiar with. So if I had to just guess, I'm winging this last one here. Try and think through what I'd want, what would be beneficial. Demon Hunter would be fantastic for I think they do good damage. They bring some good utility. That 5%
Mhm.
magic, well, I guess it's 3% now or something, right?
Yeah.
Whatever the magic damage buff would be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be pretty good.
Rogue would give me stealth though.
Yep.
Which would be really awesome in M+ and be super helpful. Do we have stealth potions still? Is that the thing right
I don't
now?
know.
Assuming
I really
not
don't
everybody's
know.
bringing them. So really, I don't think Hunter's doing anything extraordinary right now. I just haven't heard much about Hunter. So between Rogue and Vengeance, Havoc. I mean, I think for utility, I'm gonna bring Havoc. Let's say Havoc. And that
Mhm.
buff, that magic buff, will be really nice for Arcane and Frost, I think.
Oh yeah, dude.
for
Oh my
sure.
goodness.
So I'm gonna take Havoc.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty clutch play. Yeah, and to be honest, it's kind of funny because I was kind of thinking the same thing when you said that out loud, because typically we have like a fair amount of hunters in the guild.
Yep.
And we just don't this
No, it's pretty
this
low.
one.
And Hunter's normally a pretty high
Oh, it is.
high pop class, just because it's fun, it's easy, right? In terms of learning Hunter, it's generally a little bit easier rotationally. It's meant to be a more introductory class. You get a cool pet with it, so it's appealing.
Yeah.
It's appealing to look at and to play. But yeah, we don't have a ton right now. I think one of our core hunters who has historically played with us isn't with us at the moment. I'm checking damage for raid, which isn't really a great indicator of M+, but I'm just checking some raid damage real quick. Okay, Havoc's up there. Okay, I didn't make too bad of a choice.
No.
Depends on the fight. I don't know how their AoE is though, but at least it's not terrible. Okay, that's an alright pick.
No, you picked good. I think that was probably the safe play out of what you could have picked.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, we're starting to run out of time. We are a bit over our hour mark, so I'm going to start wrapping this up. But a couple things I want to talk about. Delves, right? So they made some Delves changes if you haven't seen already. If you're a healer, so for the healers who listen to our podcast, if there are any out there, after I went on my healing rant earlier, if there's still any healers left to listen to the podcast, delves were nerfed for healers. So enemies have lower health and do lower damage, but only for solo healer groups. So if you're just going in by yourself as a healer, try it out this week. Let me know on Discord. Did that work? Did that not work? I'm curious to know. Zakvir, the 13th delve, that boss, that special boss that you can go fight, he got nerfed a bunch, which
he did.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't think he should have been. I know he's difficult. I know a lot of people are struggling with him. I still need the Doom on the more difficult mode, the less difficult mode.
The second one, yeah.
The less difficult mode, I like one shot, no problem. But again, I'm a blood DK, so
before the buff. Or before the nerf?
Before the nerf, yeah. It was easy.
Really?
Yeah, I literally was literally just scrolling Twitter or something while I was fighting him. But again,
no, you weren't. Stop.
I'm dead serious. But again, blood DK doesn't really totally count. It's not the same.
Interesting.
Yeah, you put Bran on healing mode, right? And then you just pick up the little potions that pop up.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Do
you not put Bran on healer mode when you run?
No, dude, I heal myself.
Yeah, but then the extra potions, I never die.
That's fair.
Delves, dude, because I put Bran on healer.
Yeah, I always just put him on DPS so that I can steamroll the dungeon.
Yeah. So there's those changes, and then the last thing I want to pick your brain on a quick couple seconds, because again we don't have a ton of time. But did you see the new Traveler's Log reward for October?
Let's not talk about it.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. I think I could literally spend the next 15 minutes talking about this. So
it is a recolor though.
That's the discussion I want to save for next season or for next podcast. I think it's a good discussion to have on, in this new age of WoW. We had MOP remix and we had all that stuff. What are your thoughts on re-releasing mounts, cosmetics, all that kind of stuff as a recolor? And we can touch on it a fair amount next season, but this is the first time it's really affected me. And to be honest, I'm not sure how I feel about it just yet.
Yeah, and the funny thing is the mount you have is still obtainable. All right, so to clarify for everybody listening, the Traveler's Log is basically the trading post thing, right? So when you get all your trading post goals done or whatever, you get to the end, collected all your attendees, then you get usually a special item that month. That's only available that month. Right. I think eventually they'll start probably just popping it into the trading post as a buyable later.
Yes, they do.
And so this month in October, we're going to have a recolor of that jellyfish mount thing that you get from Zareth Mortis. It's that mechanical glowy jellyfish thing. And Chicken farmed so freaking hard to get that mount in Zareth Mortis. He farmed so hard.
Literal day.
Now, what I will say is the trading post one is a silver, whereas the one you have is more gold. I think the gold one is cooler. But again, the amount of work you put in for then somebody else to get it, even though it's just a recolor, simply for literally just playing the game that month, right? Because the end goal items are usually just you played the game and raided a little bit, you did some dungeons, you did some world quests. Here's a reward for playing the game this month. So we can save that conversation because I have some thoughts. I kind of straddle the aisle on this one. Sometimes I'm against it, sometimes I'm for it. And I think I can explain some of those ideas in next week's episode. And on top of that, if there's ever any topics or questions or things you want us to talk about on the podcast, there's a link to our Discord in the description on whatever platform you're watching on. Click that link, go join our Discord, and there's actually a section on the Discord called Questions for the Pod. Put your questions in there, whatever it is, whether it's lore-related questions, gameplay-related questions, our opinions on things, what we would like to see, just ask. And those are topics that we want to talk about on the podcast. We love to answer your questions. So that's everything. That's everything for now. My name is Swag. If you want to find, I go by Swag Lock, but I often just call myself Swag. You can find me on YouTube as Swaglock or Twitch. I create content for a lot of new players getting into World of Warcraft. And Chicken, if people want to connect with you, what's the best way to do so? I know right now you're not currently streaming at the moment, but is it through Discord?
Yeah, so if you want to connect with me, the greatest way to just you can shoot me a DM on Discord, or just go to my website. It's actually www.leavemealone.com, and there you can get in touch with me, see what I'm
Perfect.
doing with my life. Yeah.
Easy enough. Perfect. But we will be so excited to see you in future episodes, or talk to you in future episodes. We got some fun plans coming up that we're so excited for. So thank you for
I think we
listening.
do, yeah.
Rate us 5 stars or high on whatever platform that you're listening to. And we'll see you next week /exit.